I don't often give a video on something for reasons of why I'm not something. I think it's less productive than videos on why I am something and what I do and how you should do it or can do it. I don't like to do negative videos. And this is not a negative video, but it is a video, I think, of awareness. On YouTube now, there are quite a bit of militant vegan videos and video channels that are popping up. And these are not incidental events. These are very militant groups, usually of 20-year-olds, very idealistic, very fresh out of college, and they have an absolutist mentality. And they say you should be vegan, you should be raw vegan, you should give up meat. And sometimes I get comments and or emails about whether or not I have tried vegan, why I should try it. And I wanted to weigh in on that because the topic has become huge, like I said, all over YouTube and all over the internet. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I respect greatly people who are, number one, mindful of their health and a plant-based diet, and number two, mindful of respecting the planet. So this is not a hate video, and this is not a you shouldn't be vegan video. This is my perspective of why I gave up veganism. I was a vegan from 2001, about December or October of 2001, all the way through, it was 9 months, and it ended in the midway through 2002. And there were several reasons for why I loved it at first, but there were several reasons for why I ended it. And this may help some of you who write me, those of you who are vegans who are starting to have problems either on your OMAD plan or on your any other healthy eating arrangement. Believe me, there are quite a few, just like with any eating plan, there are going to be people who have problems and struggles. It's just universal. It's just that way. There is no panacea of perfection in eating. You're not going to find it anywhere. And that has to be a universal. It has to be a universally accepted truth. Nothing is perfect for everyone. I wish it were a one-shot deal and everyone was great, but it's not. So let me go back and tell you why I was overweight. I was about 295 to 305 pounds, and I ended up leaving just junk food eating, and I went to raw veganism. And when I say raw, I mean I did occasionally cheat and have cooked food and a few animal byproducts, but not ever enough to ever count for anything. I was mostly a fruitarian, and occasionally I would have some nuts or something, but mostly I was very close to a fruitarian or a full-on raw vegan. I was great for a while. I dropped 25 pounds nearly the first month, maybe 20 pounds. And after that, the weight loss started to taper off. I did drop about 54 pounds in total. When I got to a month or two in, I started to have an itching, and it would permeate the south region, if you know where I'm going, and it would also permeate other parts of me, and I could not find out why. My energy levels soon, which were great at first, anytime I taxed myself or pushed myself to lift or move or do something strenuous, energy level would go down. So I quickly ran out of love for the diet, even though I was very satiated for the most part. But I found that if I got away from staying with fruit, that I would have lows, blood sugar lows, because I kept upping myself, and my pancreas would respond by producing a lot of insulin, and then I'd have a low. After that, I'd be hungry all over again. That was another problem. And then I started to have brain fog, severe brain fog. I bought a new 2002 Toyota Camry at the time, and I loved it. And I had the keys in one hand. I walked. I said, what do I do with the keys? And there they were right there. Now, that's common for a lot of people, but I was also forgetting what I was writing emails about. I was sitting at the computer. I didn't even know what I was doing, and it became such a problem that I actually was just freaking out, like, what in the heck is wrong? I went to a doctor about the itching and about brain fog. And then I started to lose energy a little bit more. It ended up being so bad, the itching, that I had to leave, that I had to not do it. I went out and I had a steak, made me terribly sick eating that steak after 9 months of being a vegan. But I had to cancel my moving plans. I was actually moving, and I was so sick I couldn't do it. My wife just basically, at the time, she just put me to bed and said, forget it, you're not going to be able to do anything today. And when I added meat back in, problem was solved. The brain fog was gone. The itching stopped almost overnight. and it was 0, and 0%. I tried it again in 2006. Now keep in mind, I was a lot less wise back then. I tried a bunch of different diet plans. All of this was teaching me a lot about myself. But so the veganism ended on a very bad note. Despite feeling good and having lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, and generally more energy, that changed, that tapered off. So uh, that's why I am no longer a vegan and would never attempt to be one again. Uh, that's the huge takeaway right here. Now, as to why no one should go out of their way to go crazy on any militant philosophy, first of all, veganism is not going to increase your lifespan. And I'm going to put a video in the comments. It's not going to increase your lifespan being vegan. And I have a vegan admitting that, and many others. There's so many tests that have been done. You're not going to live longer. You're going to have about the same lifespan. Second, all of the people that live the longest on Earth are not purely vegetarian. The people of Okinawa, the people of the Isle of Crete, the people in the mountains of China, the people that live the longest are mostly vegetarian, but they're not vegetarian. They have meat as kind of a delicacy. So that's number 2. Number 3 is it's very easy to develop hypoglycemia when you're on a very fruity, sugar-based diet that goes too far. A lot of these people get into smoothies, and I have people that ask me about smoothies and my advice on that. They're a bad idea because what you're doing is you're spiking your sugar, and then you're gonna fall off. Your insulin's going to respond with more than enough waves to overcome it. So you're hungry again faster, and you're going to feel less satiated than if you had some animal protein, at least a little, or enough plant protein with it. But that's another problem, is you should not do that, because fruit plays a role in the diet, but it should not be your whole diet. And if you're getting a lot of plant foods like cauliflower and broccoli and stuff like that, it's great for you, but it's not very calorie dense. So the issue becomes you should not depend on any one food group. Anytime someone comes along and says you should eliminate a food group, the red flag should go right up, because you're usually going to have some problems on that front. I'm sorry about the lighting in this video. This is kind of crazy today. Sunny and then not so sunny. So the big issue, but the last big issue, is B12. You do not find B12 in the plant kingdom. I know there are some that say you do, but they're incorrect about it. You do not find true B12 or enough quantities of B12 in any of the plant kingdom. Yes, that's true for spirulina and ashwagandha and all this stuff that the health gurus are pumping. You're not going to get sufficient amounts of B12 with that. You can either supplement or you can get shots if you are vegan, but you cannot go out of your way to get it in the plant kingdom. So, but of course the question then becomes, instead of supplementing or getting shots to get B12, why the heck not just eat a piece of steak or chicken or have some grass-fed eggs, right? It's common sense. All of the apes, the great apes, the lesser apes, all of them that are so-called vegetarian, they're really not purely vegetarian. They are, they get bugs, they get feces, they get dirt. If you eat that way, then you'll be just fine. But every time we have taken an ape out of the wild and fed them a typical human vegan diet, they become deficient in B12. What happens when you get deficient in B12? You lose energy, number one. You start to get sick a little more often. You get your blood sugar is not as well regulated, so you get the shakes pretty fast. You also have mouth sores, joint sores. You get all sorts of digestive problems, and you have a severe lack of energy and optimism. B vitamins, and not just B12, but B6 and B3, if they're not equal, like you get them naturally, with the right fatty acids, they're going to mess with your mood, so you're going to feel more depressed. The brain fog I mentioned having cleared right up when I brought back in flesh food. A lot of women I know, they're losing hair, their skin, they get a lot of eczema, they start missing periods, and they start becoming very weak and tired as soon as they get up, shortly after they get up, throughout the bulk of the day. If that describes you, you may need to do a little bit of adjustment if you are vegan. Now, I get contacted by some vegans and they complain about energy levels, and this gets back to, if you're following the 1 meal a day, 1 plate rule, you're really not going to be able to do that, because you're going to need to get if your food is whole, you're going to need to eat more to get your calories, because junk food is very calorie dense, and something like broccoli or cauliflower is very light. Lettuce, kale, salads, you're not going to be able to do that and get enough calories in a day to keep yourself at sufficient level. You're going to end up going in the hole. So, and I say in the hole meaning you're going to be malnourished if you keep doing it. So you don't want to go in that direction. So it is possible to lead a vegetarian lifestyle healthfully, but you're going to have to do some revamping, do some rebooting. There are some people who can eat a vegetarian lifestyle for 12, 13, 15, 20 years and not have any deficiencies, but they are rare. Most people will start out good and they will lose their way. They will start to become, they'll meet to a point where they begin to climb down as soon as they hit their peak. That's true of low carb as well. A lot of people who give up the junk foods and the sugars, they're just fine for a while, and then because they lose weight, but then they stall because their body reaches a plateau, at which point they stop making progress. The only way that you can really find a happy medium is to acknowledge that we evolved. We did not come from apes. A lot of people say we came from apes, we evolved from apes. We did, but that was 18 million years ago when that started. Since then, we migrated north. We left the Fertile Crescent, our ancestors, where food was scarce. And the further you get away from either north or south of the equator, the challenge of life theory says that it's harder to live. So food becomes more scarce, the climate becomes colder, and it becomes harder to survive. What happens? Your food sources diminish. So what did early man do? He turned toward scavenging and then eventually toward hunting. He crossed riverbeds, had to walk longer distances to food, which gave us an upright posture, which actually changed the way we hold our head and our neck and our throat. We're way different from the apes in that respect. Not to mention brain size and connectivity, the way our nerve endings and the base of our skull are connected. All of those things make us different. We migrated north. We had to develop a flesh food diet. That increased brain size. You never would have evolved on a plant-based diet alone. You'd still be just like the anthropoid apes of today, who are the same as they've always been. Now, so it's not the same. Don't discount 8.5, 10 million years of evolution when man started to bring in starches and cooked foods and animal products, because it's been going on. We come from a lineage of apes who were flesh eaters as well as vegetation eaters. So it is unfair to say, well, we need to eat a certain way exclusively. Again, red flags should go up, because that's usually going to pose a problem. Red meat, chicken, fish, all of those things had in small quantities. And by small quantities, I mean just once or twice every week, maybe, or maybe 3 times a week, maybe every other day, have a little bit of flesh food. That's enough. You don't have to be a paleo person. You just have to you don't have to, but you should get just a little bit once in a while to keep your stomach adjusted. We have more hydrochloric acid than vegetarian species. And by the way, there are very few vegetarian species on the planet. The meat that we evolved on, with the higher levels of hydrochloric acid in our stomach, they preserve T cells from meat, stuff like red meat, which is cancer fighting. Yes, red meats have carcinogens that cause cancer, but if you don't overdo it, you won't be getting enough carcinogens to have a cancerous effect. What you're going to do is you're going to end up having, from the nutrients the beast ate when it was alive, you will have a steady breakdown of iron, which is another big problem with people who are vegetarian. And you're going to have the proteins, and you're going to have an abundance of the B vitamins that you need. One shot is not going to work for everybody. Sometimes we have to adjust our diets. Start thinking you-centered. What can you do to better yourself? You might need to adjust because your body might not absorb B vitamins as well. You might not be getting enough iron. We call that anemia. When a person has a problem absorbing iron, they end up not being able to sufficiently have enough iron to live, or to live healthfully. Hypothyroid people need more B vitamins. It's a fact. They need more stuff like selenium. You have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, and please do not fall victim to extreme ideologies that say, this is the way, here is the way it should be. I'm a natural foodist. I do everything right. You're on the wrong path if that's you. It's wonderful to be thinking of the planet. It's wonderful to be thinking of your your body and health and eating clean. I believe it and I teach it, but not at the expense of common sense and adjustment. We each have a genetic hand dealt and we are at the mercy of it. So start thinking for you, start asking, is this the right move for me? And be willing to change if you find that it's not.